So my arrival at MIT, I made the serious mistake of coming to MIT from Princeton not only as a political science faculty member, but also as a housemaster of East Campus House. Now, for those of you that know MIT well, you understand that East Campus is the heart of the hacker culture for which MIT is so famous. It was my students there that put the police car on the roof of on the dome. I mention that because exposure to or immersion in the, let's call it the technology part of MIT in all of its glory, is one of the reasons why my professional interests moved just a bit. So when I came to political science at MIT, I came as an international relations theorist working on theories of cooperation, political economy, looking at trade, monetary and financial affairs, and American foreign policy with 4 books on American foreign policy. After arriving at MIT and becoming director of the Center for International Studies, it seemed that there were other things that were worth engaging in, not to the exclusion of those earlier interests, but to complement them. To give you a little example, I'm sitting there minding my own business as director of the center when the nuclear engineers stepped forward saying, "The Japanese are interested in doing a study on the risks associated with their nuclear industry and the benefits." And so we put our heads together and did a contract on that, pointing to potential safety issues and pointing to the economics as well. And an accident occurred, things get complicated. But the point here was that it was the beginning of an association with the technologies that MIT helps produce. Or some chemical engineering friends. At the time, I didn't know them. But they were working on a problem on coal combustion in China. Coal is dirty, its contribution to CO2 is infamous. And at the same time, the Chinese government was interested in potentially improving the cleanliness of production, improving the efficiency of the use of coal in a number of settings. So, you put your heads together with the technologists to try to improve the characteristics of the technology while acknowledging that it sure isn't perfect. And relationships and friendships emerge. The funniest part was actually when it turned out that my engineering colleagues were well schooled in economics. One of them had trained in microeconomics in Hungary and understood economic reforms as well as anyone in political science. On the other hand, we were sitting there trying to figure out technical as well as other issues, and we had a pact. And the pact was that everyone had to understand the other guy's area well enough, not to do the bench engineering or to do the economic modeling or political modeling, but to query each other, to engage in dialogue, to not be passive partners. And again, that provided a foundation for the next step, which was again conspiring, this time with historians of technology. Rose Smith from STS, Dan Hastings from Engineering Systems, to be putting together an NSF grant proposal on emerging technologies and their implications. Now, this is where upper reaches of MIT take on a role. Chuck Vest, president at the time, had been encouraging students, graduate and undergraduate, to take responsibility for the implications of the technologies that they create. And it can be a bit of a truism, unless if there's something behind it. Chuck's admonition, warning, exhortation was very much at the heart of what we were trying to do with our little program in emerging technologies. And so we were working with students in engineering, in political science, in STS, to be improving their capacity for assessing or evaluating effects of old technologies, but also looking ahead in areas cyber and bio. And it developed in really interesting ways. My life became miserable because a course that I created as part of that initiative, a course in science, technology, and public policy, kept growing and growing and growing. So, there are 85 students in there now with a capped enrollment, 60-odd graduate students. And when I say my life is both miserable, it's wonderfully rewarding to have people interested, but it's also a lot of extra work. At the same time, it's reaching out to and interacting with the rest of the Institute on economics, on politics, and on values in a manner that is more than theoretical. It also led to something else. The two areas that we were working on in this original NSF grant, one was biotechnology, synthetic biology, and the other was internet security. With good partners, Dave Clark on the internet security side, Drew Endy and others on synthetic biology. Both of those initial activities developed into larger things well after the end of that 5-year grant. So I've been working actively with the Synthetic Biology Center here at MIT on the implications of that field, also serving as Director of Policy and Practices for an Engineering Research Center. And on the cybersecurity side, looking forward to be working with Hal Abelson and Dave Clark and Danny Wisner on the new Stanford, MIT, UC Berkeley initiative on cybersecurity. Bottom line, and I know this went on a little longer than you hoped, but the bottom line on this is that it's a genuine pleasure to be in the Department of Political Science, working not just with wonderful political scientists and great graduate students and colleagues, but to be taking the advantages, the virtues, the insights from our discipline, but to be using them in partnership with others at the Institute and even at other schools in the area. And I have to tell you that I don't think there's any other place in the world where it would have been possible to do that kind of work.